So, good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're joining us from, everyone. My name is Jesse, and I am with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. For those joining for the first time, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. And we are so excited to be welcoming back our speakers. I will give them a chance to do an intro in just a second. But we are joined by 5 classes from across North America so far. 2 more should be joining in the next minute. I'm going to give them a chance to say a little hello. We've got Miss Stouffer's grade 2s in Lecanto in Florida. Hi, guys. Hi, there's so many of you. You're so excited. Florida classes always are. We've got Miss Drazen's K through 2s in Windsor in Connecticut. Hi, guys. Hi. Welcome in. Oh, there's so many of you too. We're just getting the whole school boards in today. We've got Miss Burkett's grade 1s in Sterling in Virginia. Hi, guys. That's you. There's so many. Long time no see. It's been like 15 minutes. I love it. All right, we've got Miss Wennett's grade 1s in San Antonio in Texas. Hi, guys. Hi. Yes, I'm so glad we got your video working. And last but not least for now, we've got Miss Doty's grade 5s in Flemington in New Jersey. Hi, guys. Hey, welcome in. Awesome. All right. One kid got the extra screaming at the end, and I love it. Of course, the reason you guys are all here today is for our speakers. So we are joined live in lovely Norfolk, Virginia, by the team at the Virginia Zoo, Stephanie and Mary Beth specifically, and they are going to take us a little bit of a journey of the beautiful birds there they have at the zoo. So we've done sessions with them on every kind of animal, but today I'm particularly excited to dive in with our feathered friends. So without further ado, thank you so much for joining us, ladies, and take it away.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm Mary Beth. So, and this is Chili. Chili is what's called a tawny frogmouth. So a lot of people mistake them for owls because they look a lot like an owl, but they are not related to owls really very closely at all. So these guys are part of what's called the nightjar family, or they're related to the nightjars. So she's spitting her food out there at me. But Chili here is about close to 2 years old. She actually did come from another zoo. And this is her first time doing anything like this. So this is really exciting. You guys are one of the first groups to get to see her. Their main diet where they are found is going to be insects. So when she wants to, she will eat worms. So they are found in Australia, also found in Tanzania. And where they are found, they like to live in the forests. So they're going to be up in the trees. They're going to kind of roost up in the branches, where this lovely color that she has kind of helps her camouflage and blend in. And all those feathers that she has on her make her kind of look like a stump or look like a tree branch. So if she's sitting up there, she can camouflage up with the dead tree branches that might be out in the woods that she is in. The other thing that they will also do is something called stumping, which is where she makes herself look really tall and skinny, and she's going to kind of shrink up, and she is going to look just like a tree branch. And you're not even going to be able to notice that she's there. So one of the main things that they do is eat insects. So they like insects. They're also going to eat small mice, maybe even. But what they do is they just sit up in the tree and they open their mouth really wide at dusk and dawn, where the insects are the most commonly found. So they're usually going to be floating around during those times. She's going to open her mouth really wide. It's kind of green like a leaf. She's just going to hold it open and wait for a bug to land in her mouth, and then she's going to close her mouth. And that's kind of her style of hunting. The other thing that she might do is if she sees something down on the ground, she's going to kind of swoop down and grab it, and then she's going to maybe kill it down on the ground and take it back up to her tree. So that's what she's going to do if she has to go down. But they're not really good flyers, so she's not going to really chase after anything. She's not going to fly for a very long distance. She's usually just going to flit from branch to branch to branch, and that's about as far as she's going to move. So some things that she has in common with an owl, so since people think they are owls, something in common with an owl is that she has silent flight. So when she does fly, her feathers are soft and they do not make a loud noise. So she has that in common with an owl. The other thing that they have in common is that they both have those big eyes. But you're going to see that Chili's beak is shaped differently, and her feet are not very strong at all. So her feet are usually just going to be used for hopping around from branch to branch. They're not really going to be used for grabbing things. They're not going to be used for holding on to things because of the fact that she's not going to have very strong feet. So those are a little bit of the differences between these guys. Even though they look like an owl, they're actually not. But Chili, our tawny frogmouth here, is one of our ambassador animals. So she lives in our area with the rest of our ambassador animals. She has an outdoor area that she can fly around in. But most commonly, we see her pretending to be a big tree branch. So she's usually going to stand nice and tall. And sometimes we have to look around because we can't find her right away, especially if she has her eyes closed. She looks just like the tree branches that are out there. So she is our non-owl bird that you're going to meet today, even though she looks like an owl. And then we have another animal that we're going to get to bring out in just a second. Let me see if she'll eat a worm here so you can see her big wide open mouth. No, you don't want it? How about your mouse? That has a worm attached to it. How about this worm? Show off your big mouth, Chili. Nope. All right. Guess she's not hungry right now. So we're going to put her away and we're going to get our next bird out for you guys to meet. You ready?
So like our tawny frogmouth, Chili, our new friend is going to be a small feathered friend. She is a bird. She is an eastern screech owl. So she does have that silent flight that owls have, where the edges of their feathers are kind of serrated, like the side of my hand here, so they can cut through the air. She also has really excellent eyesight, so that she can hunt for her food. Now, there's a little bit of a difference between our tawny frogmouth feet and our owl feet. The owls can use their talons to grab their food when they're hunting, so that it's easier for them to find their food. So she is almost ready for Miss Stephanie. Here she is, Miss Eva.
All right. So this is Eva, our eastern screech owl, and she is actually a rescued bird. So she came to us from a rehabber where she was found out in the wild and injured. She does have an eye injury. So she's actually mostly blind in one eye. And because of that, she couldn't be released into the wild. So that's why we have her here. So she is an eastern screech owl. So they're found on the eastern coast mostly. They do come in different colors. So Eva here has kind of browns and reds. And then they also have different coloration of being gray as well. So you can see she does have those big wide eyes. So she is going to use those to kind of hunt for her food. She does have some very sharp talons on her feet. So her feet, you can see she's gripping my finger, and that's how she's holding on. She's going to use those feet to hold onto her tree branches. She's also going to use those feet to go ahead and catch her prey. Now, being as small as she is either going to hunt large insects or she's going to hunt small rodents, because owls typically are going to swallow their food whole. So whatever she's going to catch, she's going to swallow whole, and then she's going to digest it. And then she has what's called owl pellets. So sometimes in school, you guys might dissect an owl pellet. So what that is that's all the fur and feather and bones that she can't digest. So she is going to cough up that owl pellet, and it's going to be made of those things. See if she'll take a piece of food here. Here at the zoo, she gets a variety of different types of mice and rat, and then she also is going to get a different meat too. So she is completely a meat eater. Now, in the wild, she can be both prey and she can be predator. So she can hunt for other animals, but she is also a bird that is going to be a prey animal for larger owls or other hawks. So they might also hunt for her. Now, she does have that silent flight that we talked about. Mary Beth mentioned that. They have the serrated feather edges. The other thing that's pretty cool about owls is that if you see, when I'm turning her, her head kind of mostly stays in one spot. And that is because they cannot move their eyes. So what she has to do, because her eyes are so large in her head, think about if we maybe had grapefruits for eyeballs. They are so big in her head and take up so much room that she can't move them around at all. So what she's going to do is she's going to turn her head to see whatever she's looking at. She can actually turn her head 270 degrees, and then she can also go kind of 90 degrees this way as well. So that allows her to kind of see whatever is going on or what's going on behind her. The reason she can do that is because she has twice as many bones in her neck as we do, and she doesn't have a shoulder bone. So there's nothing stopping when she turns her head. She doesn't have that shoulder bone. So that allows her to move her head around in lots of different directions. So Eva here is actually less than a year old. So she was a 2019 hatch. So she is a young owl, and she will hopefully with us live to be in her late 20s. So with us, she can live a very long time. Out in the wild, it's a rough life as a screech owl. Getting to the first year is a lot harder than you would think, because they have to find food. They have to survive on their own out in the wild. But after that, typically about 5 to 8 years old is pretty old. Sometimes they can get to be about 10 years old. But that's going to be pretty much an old age for an owl. Some of the things that they face out in the wild, some of the big threats are getting hit by cars. So you see that she's going to swoop down and look for food. A lot of times they don't see a car coming. So a lot of times they are found on the side of the road because they like to hunt mice, and mice like to go after food. And when people throw things out their car windows, like apples and things like that, a mouse is going to go there, and then that's going to attract an owl. So a lot of our owl friends end up getting hit by cars. So that's one way you can help them, is by making sure you take your trash away and throw it in the proper place. So now you might also see these things on the top of her head. Those are actually not her ears. Those are just feathers that help her to look like a tree branch, just like Chili does, so she can camouflage up in the trees. And the other thing they can do is help her to hear too. So she has ears on the side of her head, kind of right over here under her feathers. And when the sound hits the back of those feathers on the top of her head, it might help to funnel some of the sound down. So those are a couple of things that help her to survive out in the wild. So she has those really strong talons. She's going to hunt for food with her silent flight. And then she has an excellent vision and hearing. So she is pretty much a pretty well-adapted little predator. All right, so I think if we want to turn it around, if you guys have any questions, we're gonna bring Chili out and see if she wants to hang out with us as well. We'll see if they wanna hang out together, and you can see the differences between them. And then if you guys have any questions about them, we can answer them.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for that fantastic presentation with our two beautiful bird friends. In addition to our live classes, we've got at least 4 more joining in on YouTube. So if you haven't let me know where you're joining from yet, please do, and I'll pass along as many questions as I can to our wonderful speakers. But let's start by diving in with Miss Stouffer's class. If you guys want to come up to kick us off with a question, go right ahead.
Come here. I'm trusting you're going to ask a great question. Come on.
Do all owls have silent flight?
Good question.
That's a good question. All owls have silent flight. So they all have those serrated feather edges. Think of kind of like a comb that you comb your hair with. That's kind of what the tips of their feathers look like. And then with that, when they flap their wings, it makes no noise at all.
Very cool. All right, let's head to Miss Drazen's class. If you guys have a question, come on up.
You want to ask?
How do you catch them?
How do you catch them?
How do
Yeah.
they catch? No, about the food. How do they catch the food? You said, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
How do they catch their food? So a screech owl is going to swoop down and catch it with her feet. So they're going to use their feet to catch their food. And then our tawny frogmouth is usually just going to sit there and wait for the food to come to her. So that's where she's going to open her mouth wide and just sit there looking like a leaf and wait for a bug to land on it.
The laziest, best way of getting dinner.
Yeah, if she has to, she'll swoop down, but usually she's just going to sit there.
Fantastic. Let's head to Ms. Burgett's class. Come on up, guys.
Say hi and tell them your name.
Hi, my name is Inaya.
Hi.
What is your question?
What kind of insects do the owls eat?
Yeah.
Do the owls eat? So the screech owls, they're going to go for larger insects. So maybe something like a large moth or a dragonfly or something like that. So that's going to be the kind of insects that they're going to go for. Nothing that's super tiny. But our tawny frogmouth, the other type of bird we have, they're going to go for lots of different insects. So they might eat crickets, they might eat grasshoppers, they may eat larger flying bugs. So pretty much anything that's going to come her way.
Cool. I'm going to take a question from our YouTube class. Miss Crosland's grade 2s in San Antonio wanted to ask, how do they spit out this owl pellet? Like, how does it come up?
It comes right back up their mouth.
Yeah.
So they, when they swallow, they don't have a crop like most birds do. So most birds are eat and then it kind of digests in a crop. Their food is going to go straight down into their stomachs, and then it's going to digest there, and then they just cough that pellet right back up.
Cool. All right. Miss Wannett's class, also San Antonio. Come on up, guys.
Front of the camera like I should. There you go.
Do owls walk?
Do owls walk?
Do they walk?
Yeah.
Can walk around, but usually if they're gonna walk around, it's gonna be from tree branch, walking around on tree branches, because if they're down on the ground, that's where they're gonna be most vulnerable. So that's where they might get attacked by a predator. So usually they're gonna try flying places versus walking.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, just for our class's information, I'm not this specific owl, but there are some owls that actually burrow in the ground, correct?
There are burrowing owls. So those types of owls that burrow in the ground, those are the ones that you're gonna see running around on the ground.
Yeah, very cool. It's kind of neat seeing an owl pop its head up from under the ground and just as
Yeah,
neat
they
as-
dig really big little burrows and have little tunnels and things like that.
Super cool. All right, let's go to Miss Doty's group. Come on up, guys.
How, what type of environment do owls live in?
Yeah.
Do owls live in?
Yeah, what type of environment?
So they are found in lots of different environments. So we have different types of owls. So our owls that are found, like our eastern screech owl, they're mostly going to be found in trees and forests, but they are actually really well adapted to finding their homes in cities too. So you might sometimes see them in parks or different areas, depending on where there's food. There are also owls that live where it's really cold. So there's snowy owls. So you can find them where it's really, really cold. Sometimes you can see them floating on ice and things like that. There's owls that are found in more tropical areas. So depending on which owl you're looking at, they can be found all in different places. So they might be found in the more tropical forest. They might be found in more winter areas that are cold a lot and be more well adapted to that. Or they can be found pretty much where it's warm and cold. So lots of different places.
All right, that's a great first round of questions, guys. We're going to go back for a second round, take some more on YouTube too, so please do type in questions. And let's take some for the tawny frogmouth too, who looks very concerned that he's not getting any questions, I think. I think there's a look on the face. That's what I'm choosing to interpret it as. Let's take a question from YouTube. So Miss Liebert's class, grade 5s in Guelph, wanted to know, how do owls protect themselves?
How do they protect themselves? So they have really strong beaks, and they also have really strong talons or nails on their feet. So that's how they're usually going to protect themselves, is either by biting or by attacking with their feet.
Very cool.
Or flying away. They could fly away.
Speaking of their feet, we did a bird session about a week ago where they talked about how strong owls and birds' grips are. Can you explain a little bit about how powerful they can grip with their talons?
So typically what they're going to do is they're going to hold on to something and not let go until their brain tells them to let go. So one thing they're going to do is they're going to have that really strong grip to grab their food. They have what's called a power talon at the back, and that's the one that's going to hook in and hold on to their food. And then depending on the owl, so this screech owl, she doesn't have a super strong grip, but other owls can have anywhere from about 400 to 800 PSI for their grip strength. So it all depends on how big the bird is, but usually they all have that same power talon at the very back that they use to grab onto things.
Yeah, power talon is the greatest scientific term we've ever covered in the history of exploring by the seat of your pants.
There's probably a more scientific word, but
Yeah. Now we'll stick with that. Miss Olarides' class, you guys joined us in San Antonio, grade 4s. So come on up and ask a question.
How the owls cover ears on the ears?
Yeah, so are their ears out, or how are they covered, or what's going on with their ears, ladies?
so her ears are actually, if you see where this little ridge around her face is, so her ears are kind of buried right back in there, kind of right about here is where her ear is. So it's kind of a little hole that's underneath all the feathers. So some owls actually have one ear that's higher and one ear that's lower, but our screech owl has ears that are directly across from each other. So they have those ears across, and then the kind of hole is just kind of buried in the feathers. But something kind of cool is that their eyes are so big, if you were able to look into an owl's ear, you'd be able to see the back of their eyeball.
Sorry, I love the breaking the fourth wall. That is so cool. That's awesome. All right. Just by comparison, by the way, because you mentioned a few 100 pounds per square inch. So a grown sort of man, so my age gripping you as hard as I could is about 1/5 as much as like a fairly big owl. So these little birds, relatively speaking, are way more powerful than we are with their grip, which is really neat. Power talons. All right, let's head back to Miss Stouffer's group. Come on up, guys.
What is the largest owl species?
So there's two that are typically up at the top. The difference is either between their weight or their wings, depending on who are the largest. We actually have one of them here at the zoo. They're called a Eurasian eagle owl. His name is Carson that we have at the zoo. He's actually done one of these. If you look back in the YouTube videos, he was in our last bird one that we did. But they are about a 5-foot wingspan. And then there's also the great gray owl is the other one. So it's between those two that are the top owls.
Very cool. All right, I'm going to give our tawny frogmouth a question because it's got a really interesting color pattern where it looks like it could sort of blend. In fact, it's sort of blending in with the background of the elephant in the branch right now. So is the coloration meant to blend in? Is it for camouflage?
They are. That is a coloration meant to blend in. So they're kind of grayish color, or the tawny color, I guess you could say, is so that they can pretty much just blend in right in the tops of those trees,
Super.
right with the tree bark.
All right. Miss Farmer's grade ones in San Antonio too. I don't know. I think the whole city of San Antonio is watching this session, which is very exciting. In Camelot Elementary, they want to ask, do owls sleep all day? And if they do, where do they sleep?
So they typically don't sleep all day. So our screech owl here is actually what's called more crepuscular. So she's going to be mostly dawn and dusk is kind of when they're going to be awake. But they do have some owls that are nocturnal for the most part. And then sometimes they can be a little bit more diurnal, which means that they're going to be awake during the day. So if she were to be sleeping during the day, what she's going to do is just sit up in her little hole in the tree. So they like to be in cavities. They're cavity nesters. So they sometimes will steal a cavity in the tree from another animal that might have built it. And then they're going to stay in there and they're just kind of roost in there. And even when she closes her eyes, she blends right into the tree bark. So you're not going to be able to see them at all when they're sitting up in the tree bark. Now our burrowing owls that we talked about earlier, they're just going to stay down in their burrows down underground if they're going to be sleeping in those areas. But mostly they're going to sit up in a tree and stay up in the tree where they feel most safe.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Stephanie. All right, let's go to Miss Drazen's group. Come on up, guys.
What was your question? How many different types of owls are there?
There's lots. I don't actually have that number in my head, how many different types of owls there are. I do know there's different groups of owls. So we've got our smaller owls, you've got like our screech owls. There's also a pygmy owl too, that's even smaller than a screech owl. So I will have to look that up and get back to you.
So the quickest Google search in the world says there are 225. Can't vet that anyway, but that's a lot of different kinds of owl.
Yeah, lots of different owls.
Very cool. All right, let's head back to Virginia, Miss Burkett's class. Come on up, guys.
All right.
Hi.
Say hi.
My name's Mila, and do owls have teeth?
Yeah.
So they don't really have teeth. What they have is kind of ridges in their beak that can be sharp for that when they grab their food, that they can pull it apart. But you're not going to have teeth like we have teeth. They're just going to have those beaks.
That's actually a good note on birds in general. Do any birds have teeth just for our kids? Or are they all just beaks?
They all have their beaks. You might have some like when they're first coming out of the eggshell, they can chip away. They have like a little sharp spot on the tip of their beak. But other than that, it's just going to be their beaks that you're going to find.
Yeah, you'll find that, and we've done mammal sessions with the Virginia Zoo before as well. You'll find the most diversity in kinds of teeth and what they're for in mammals, but bird beaks are very diverse too. Some really, really neat stuff. Thanks, guys. Great question. All right, I'm going to take some YouTube questions. We have, I think, 12 classes watching on YouTube now. This is just getting crazy. Miss Corcom's class in Stafford Springs in Connecticut wants to know, how many owls do you have at the zoo?
We have two. So we just have our Eastern screech owl, Eva, and her name comes from Eastern Virginia, EVA. So that's why we named her that.
Nice.
And then we have Carson, our Eurasian eagle owl.
Excellent. All right. And then Miss Callum's class, grade 5 and 6 in Winnipeg in Manitoba, wanted to know which owls are the fastest flyers.
So owls in general are not super fast. So they're really not meant to fly and dive super quickly. So I'm not sure who would be the fastest, because I think your bigger owls probably are going to be heavier, so they could fly with their bigger wingspan, they could cover more distance. But a screech owl can kind of flit from branch to branch and move around from little spot to spot when they are going to be moving. So it kind of depends, but owls in general are not really fast at speed. Your fastest birds are going to be your falcons that are going to go into a dive, and they can reach 200 miles an hour.
200 miles an hour. So this is, they're, to the best of my knowledge, the fastest animals in the world, correct? Faster than cheetahs, faster than anything in the water.
I believe in a dive, yes.
Yes.
They're doing a straight down dive.
Very cool. All right, let's hit a few more questions. Miss Wennett's class, if you guys want to come back up in San Antonio, go for it. Hi, guys.
Do all birds have feathers?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of the characteristics that makes a bird is that all birds have feathers. Now, even though all birds have feathers, not all birds fly though. So you do have birds that are built for being in the water, like your penguins. Even though they are not going to fly, they still have feathers covering their body. And then you also have really big birds like ostriches and emus and cassowaries that have feathers but also don't fly.
Before we get underway, one of the coolest things that I encourage classes to look up is something called The Life of Birds by the BBC. So whether the book or the documentary, if you want to learn about all different kinds of birds, it's a really, really fantastic documentary or a book series to get excited about. All right, Miss Doty's class. We're going to take one from you. I'm going to take another from YouTube, and then we'll end with Miss Olarides' group. So Miss Doty's class, come on up.
How fast can an owl heal when it's hurt?
Yeah.
How fast can they heal when they're hurt? So it's going to depend on what kind of injuries. So eye injuries can sometimes take a while to heal. So depending on what their injury is, if they have just some missing feathers, they have to actually regrow and wait till their next molt to grow those feathers back in. So there's a worm on the ground that Eva is looking at. That's what you're, one of the worms that Chili dropped. So they can, if they have a feather injury, they're going to have to regrow those feathers. So they have to wait till their next molt, which usually almost is once a year that they're going to go through a molt. But different little things, it all depends on the injury. So sometimes like feet injuries, if they're treated, if it's just like a scrape or an abrasion, they can heal that pretty quick. But feathers are going to take a while to grow back. And then bones are also going to take a while if they have to heal their bones.
Yeah, just like us. Fantastic. It was a great answer. Also for the classes, if you ever get a chance to watch this video again and just look at Chili's face as they're trying to feed it again, it's fantastic. It's like, why are you possibly trying to give me this piece of food? All right.
She does give us that look often. She sometimes just spits it right back out at us.
Oh dear. Ms. Liebert's class wanted to ask one more question, which is a question we've gotten from a bunch of groups on YouTube. Do any owls hibernate or fly south for the winter?
They don't really fly south for the winter. They typically are going to stay where they're at. They might move to a spot that there's more food. But typically what they're going to do is not go very long distances. So you may see like sometimes snowy owls will appear in Virginia, but they're not commonly found here. So you might have them go some distances, but they're not going to migrate like other birds that are going to go really, really far. Like some of your birds that are going to go all the way to the tropics and then come back to the States. So they may move some distances, but not going to migrate like a typical other types of birds would.
Yeah, great answer. All right, let's wrap up with one last in San Antonio with Ms. Olarides' class. Come on up, guys. Hi. Yep, Ms. Olarides' group, if you guys have a question, come on up.
Okay, who has a question?
Me.
Everyone.
Go ahead. How do owls how do owls bite?
Yeah.
How do they bite?
Yeah.
They would bite with their beaks.
Yep.
So typically, if they're going to get food, they're going to grab it with their feet and kill it with their feet first, and then they're going to use their beaks to swallow it or pull it into pieces. So they would just use their beak.
Just a quick follow-up on that question. For kids that are seeing you guys with these beautiful birds in your hands, this is not something that people should try and do in the wild with a bird, correct?
No, so like Eva, she was a screech owl that was rescued. So because she was rescued, we did a lot of training with her, and a lot of her beginning training was just her getting used to us and not flying away when we first walked up to her. So she has progressed in her training to where she's going to hang out with us, just hanging out on her hand and getting some food and just be comfortable because she knows she's safe there. Chili was actually raised to be an ambassador bird. So she was actually born at another zoo and came to us with a specific purpose that she was going to be able to come out and meet people. So these two have both been trained and conditioned. So if you were to find like an owl that was injured out in the wild, you would want to call your closest rehab center, or maybe if you can find a wildlife rehabilitator online. And then with that, you can find how they can take care of it. So you want to make sure it's somebody that is really, really well trained, because a lot of times people want to feed an injured animal, and that can sometimes be the worst thing for them. So you want to make sure you don't give them any food or water unless you were specifically told by a wildlife rehabilitator, because they're the ones who are going to have all the knowledge to take care of them.
Right. Fantastic. Always good to get that message across. Before we wrap up, ladies, is there a place we can send kids to learn more about what you do at the Virginia Zoo, more about owls and other birds? Where can we guide all our kids?
So you can go to thevirginiazoo.org and you can find information there. One thing you'll find is our blog. So you can definitely check out our Virginia Zoo blog and check that out so that you can learn more information about, we have lots of different animals that we put up there. So we might learn about our birds. You can read about maybe our new ambassador animals. You might be able to read about any baby animals that are born in the zoo. So it covers all those different topics as well as different events. And if you're in Virginia, you can actually check out our Virginia Zoo app as well. And that has animal information as well from the zoo.
Super cool. Well, thank you so much, ladies. As you know from joining in on many of these sessions in the past, what we do to wrap up every session is I'm going to demute all our classes' microphones. And so boys and girls, if you guys could get ready to join me in saying a huge thank you to Stephanie and Mary Beth. You are all now demuted, and go for it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And the birds are going to fly away. Thank you so much to all our class for tuning in, both live and on YouTube. We really appreciate your great questions and enthusiasm. And thank you so much again, Stephanie, Mary Beth. That was a really fantastic tour about your beautiful birds.
You're welcome. Thank
All
you.
right. Have a nice day, everyone. Bye for now, guys. See you all.